what an incredible surprise this comeback by Sacriversum is. The Polish band, which began its career over 30 years ago, had already reunited in 2022, but it's only now that the new album has seen the light of day. And this return to the studio shows the band coming full circle and going back to their roots, or as they themselves state, this is the natural follow-up to their debut album, The Shadow of the Golden Fire, returning to more intense death metal but with greater dynamics and diversity, further expanding the spectrum into progressive and atmospheric realms. It's an album that surprises us precisely because of its diverse facets, and how it still manages to maintain cohesion in terms of musical identity. And when we talk about diverse facets, one of them is the keyboards in the best deep purple style. A rich and memorable album. We hadn't heard of Abuser before, which isn't really surprising since prior to the release of Blood Marks, their debut album, they had only released a demo in 2019. However, as soon as Cry of the Innocent started playing, it was love at first listen. Ruthless thrash metal that might even be nostalgic in form, evoking that devastating thrash metal of the 1980s that didn't worry much about reaching a wide audience. A sort of cross between Dark Angel, Creator, and Demolition Hammer. One-dimensional and brutal. Just what the world needs right now. I have to admit that this album wasn't love at first sight, or first listen. That's because we've gotten spoiled during our monthly roundup for this video of ours and yours. However, this debut from the young band Night Spectre is everything a heavy metal fan could ask for. A traditional organic sound, virtuosic guitar work, a tight-knit band, and a voice that, while perhaps the element that takes the longest to win you over, becomes deeply ingrained after just a few listens. An album for all lovers of true traditional heavy metal. Armored Saint is a cult American heavy metal band, and it fills us with hope to see a band so true to the genre still releasing albums today. We know their release schedule isn't the most consistent, partly because all the members have other projects and commitments. But the quality is always undeniable, and Emotion Factory Reset is no exception. This is a very diverse album, perhaps the most diverse the band has ever made, and yet it still sounds completely like Armored Saint. The American heavy metal vibe is present, John Bush's voice is unmistakable, Joey Vera's touch in both composition and production is magical, and the result is an album that... Electric Sun Defence rose from the ashes of the Massacre Cave, a band that certainly didn't go unnoticed on the Scottish scene. However, it seems to us that Electric Sun Defence possesses a clarity and sense of identity here that the Massacre Cave never had. Post-metal and occasional flashes of post-rock form the foundation, but there's also a progressive sensibility that's very welcome and makes their sound quite interesting. It's one of those albums that makes us keep playing it until we lose track of time. It came as a surprise to their loyal fans when Adrift announced that their final concert would take place in March. One might think that, knowing this, it wouldn't be all that surprising if they announced on the release day of Infinite Illumination, at least in digital format, that this would be their final album. This is because Adrift are one of those bands we will definitely miss. This makes the anticipation for this album grow considerably, even more than what would be normal for an album by this American band. However, it sounds like a fitting album to bring an end to an 11-year career that has practically no weak points. Infinite Illumination is a collection of tracks that well represents the modern heavy metal style that has always characterized the band and serves as the ultimate testament to their power, as well as a legacy for their career. It is no exaggeration to say that Yoth Iria are among the leading lights of Greek extreme metal, alongside such essential acts as Rotting Christ, Septic Flesh, and, on a smaller scale but with a massive cult following, Varthron. Gone with the Devil is an album that authoritatively affirms the enormous potential Yoth Iria possesses, and how they showcase it every time they release new music. Black metal isn't the genre where they fit best, but there's also no clear sense of whether there's a specific genre where they do fit. Something we could say the same about Rotting Christ. They have their own identity and the ability to transport us into their own world, to the point where with every new listen it becomes hard to stop. Before long, this will be a band ahead of all its competition. Leatherwitch isn't just a new band, it's the new band led by Marta Gabriel of the much-missed Crystal Viper. Fortunately, we didn't have to wait long to hear her voice and talent in the service of heavy metal again. This first spell is exactly what we expected it to be. A traditional heavy metal album with a great voice, great solos, and great riffs that shows that when talent is at work, perfection is within reach. It's also a debut album with a different flavor. It doesn't have the typical naive and innocent feel of a debut. This is an album that showcases both experience in heavy metal and a passion for the genre. An album to listen to on repeat. Eternal Evil is one of those bands that has everything it takes to become the kings of the most aggressive thrash metal in no time. With a keen ear for great riffs, leads, and memorable solos, their evolution is palpable with every album, leading up to this Forever Feared, an album we simply can't get enough of. True to the genre, true to their musical identity, this is an album that invites easy, unrestrained headbanging, without sounding like a desperate search for past glory, which is, more often than not, unrealistic. I'd like to revise the statement I made initially. Forever Feared establishes Eternal Evil as the kings of the new wave of aggressive thrash metal. Draconian are back 6 years after the release of Under a Godless Veil, with Insomnolent Ruin. The ethereal beauty of their music is already a given, but we're always eagerly anticipating each new chapter. Insomnolent Ruin manages to dispel any doubts that might have existed regarding its quality. It is an absolute triumph in Draconian's discography, an album that not only honors the tradition of melodic doom death, but elevates it to a new level of emotional depth. And this factor also makes us realize that it is not an album to be listened to lightly. No, this is a work to immerse oneself in, to appreciate all the sensations it evokes and the images it creates in our minds. The band demonstrates impressive maturity in the way they build dense, slow, and hypnotic atmospheres, without ever losing focus on the emotional narrative that guides each composition. It is dark, majestic, and emotionally overwhelming. One of those works that seep into your soul and stay with you long after the final note. For fans of melodic doom death, it is simply unmissable.